What's the scariest theory known to humanity? I forget the name of the argument, but it goes as follows. Assumptions: the brain is the origin of all consciousness. The brain operates on electrical impulses. External stimuli can affect the way the brain operates. Any external stimuli to the brain can be simulated to a degree that the brain cannot distinguish these simulated stimuli from natural stimuli. The point: you could be a brain in a jar being fed false impulses for your entire life by an external source, where you still a brain in a jar could be hallucinating your entire life from lack of stimuli. Edit. Formatting edit. Brain in a vat. Also, nod to the 20 or so like the Matrix posts. I envision the brain being removed from the body, which is not the case with the Matrix. If you get deep into particle physics, you start to realize that there really is no such thing as solid matter. Everything in the universe appears to be built upon waves of vibrating energy. And if you look deep enough at anything, there's really nothing there at all, and we don't actually exist as matter in space-time in the way you think we do. This concept supports a smorgasbord of fantastical theories. The idea we live in a simulation, the idea that there's actually a god of some sort, the idea there's multiple universes, some say an infinite number of them, or any number of other interesting ideas. It's just worlds stacked on top of worlds stacked on the shell of a turtle made. Nothing more, nothing less. There's a really brutal one I've heard but can't remember its name. It basically says that every horrible thing you can imagine has been done by someone in the world at some point in human history. I can think of some pretty messed up things, and it creeps me out that they may have been done before. Quantum immortality is pretty scary. Every time the universe splits, your consciousness only continues on into one of the created universes. Eventually, we all end up being the sole inhabitant of a universe filled with P-zombies, i.e., people who act normally but lack conscious inner lives. What's worse, we continue to live despite a never-ending series of things that nearly kill us: illness, losing limbs, becoming incredibly old and infirm. So we cannot die, but are stuck with increasingly terrible, lonely lives for all eternity. This is called the false vacuum death of the universe. It's kind of in line with cold death and heat death, but a lot more sudden. That the universe can be gone in an instant, and we wouldn't notice, because we get wiped out by another expanding universe. I'll try my best to explain as simple as I can get it. Think of it as a wave. Universe A and Universe B are waves. A is bigger than B. Due to it being more stable and larger, it swallows up Universe B. With this, we might not even notice. It goes at the speed of light, so we won't be able to see it ahead of time. Edit. The effects perhaps are drastically different depending on how stable each universe is to each other and what happens at the event horizon. Star Trek-style teleportation will someday be created. It works by taking someone apart and reassembling them at the other end from pure particles. So, what if consciousness did not make the leap? This means every time someone is beamed, they die and are cloned at the other end with memories intact. And then society develops in a direction where everyone is killing themselves over and over, some only living for a few minutes. Brain in a jar, aka the Matrix, and apparently nothing to do with Plato's Allegory of the cave. Essentially, the theory that our senses are being fooled all the time into believing we are experiencing our lives, but we are actually nothing more than a brain experiencing an elaborate simulation. We don't know the difference because we've never experienced reality. Edit. Yes, I get it. I should have, but in other terms. Thanks for everyone telling me about the allegory of the cave and how I'm thinking of it incorrectly. Sorry I didn't go to Philosophy 101. I don't remember where from, but there's a theory floating around out there that memory is based on entropy, meaning that your brain decays in such a way that everything you've ever done has already been done. Essentially, you had free will at one point, but at the moment your brain is just catching up to the decisions you have previously made. You're just along for the ride now. My own crazy theory is that we are what remains of a rather advanced civilization with origins here on Earth. The end of the Ice Age pushed people from land near the equator as the land flooded. The end result being all the stories of great floods, the sinking of Atlantis, and stories of magic. Stories of old tech that would perplex generations after when things had collapsed. Try to imagine a life without timekeeping. You probably can't. You know the month, the year, the day of the week. There is a clock on your wall or the dashboard of your car. You have a schedule, a calendar, a time for dinner, or a movie. Yet all around you, timekeeping is ignored. Birds are not late. A dog does not check its watch. Dear, do not fret over passing birthdays. Man alone measures time. Man alone chimes the hour. And because of this, man alone suffers a paralyzing fear that no other creature endures. A fear of time running out. A Mitch album. The timekeeper, I know that death isn't a theory, but as a concept, death is surely the most terrifying thing that can be for a sentient creature, surely? Whether it's your own, everyone you care about, everyone in general. There's an extraterrestrial civilization millions of light years away, and they are watching us, preparing and waiting for the right time to usurp and move on to the next galaxy. Edit. I get it. They would be looking at us and seeing dinosaurs. But how do you know they don't have something more advanced where they're seeing 2015 Earth instead of dinosaurs? Graham's number. Not exactly a theory. It is an actual, finite number that has been calculated to exist. It is so large that if you wrote each of its digits onto individual atoms, there are not enough atoms in the observable universe to fully express the number. It is, however, possible to calculate the last 50 digits of Graham's number. The last digit is 7. No one knows what the first digit is, and no one ever will. Bill Bryson explained that each one of us are the result of all of our direct ancestors, reaching reproduction age without dying or being killed. For the last 2.3 billion years, from the first cells dividing, all the way through evolution. Not one of them died. That makes all of us very fortunate indeed. And if you are lucky enough to reproduce Oswell, then you have played your part in a long, long line of survival. Astronomer here. I think number 3 is not necessarily true as proof of the Great Filter, especially if we find life on Europa or Mars. Firstly, because life on Mars will likely just be some bacteria, which evolutionarily is far behind where we are, so that won't tell you anything about where any filters might be. Basically, space is so vast that I don't think it's reasonable to say we've already sufficiently taken enough data to know we haven't found it, because we've actually searched well enough to know it's rare. In fact, it would be really encouraging to find it on Mars or Europa, because even if that's just within our own solar system, it would show you conditions are great for life to spring up. But then if someone says life exists in the solar system, we're fucked because there's a filter in front of us, versus life exists in the solar system. This is amazing because it shows how easy it is for life to pop up. Maybe it's a difference between the glass half empty versus glass half full. Smiley face. I'm glad there's a name for this. I believe this to be true for as long as I can remember. I've always thought that human beings are unique to known species in that we possess both the desire to continue existing and the consciousness to confront the fact that we won't at some point. So many behaviors make sense when you look at it from this perspective. People are constantly looking to find some bit of immortality to help to reconcile this issue. Be it religious belief, fame, children, etc. So much of what humanity does makes a lot of sense if you just attribute it to a constant existential terror. Maybe it's just overfitting my own subjective experience to the whole of humanity, but it's the only way I can rationalize why I feel a drive to succeed in a career or relate to other people. It's just to somehow leave an imprint on the universe before I fade into oblivion. The main counterargument here is that we are intelligible beings, meaning we actually are aware of ourselves and ask questions. Our driving force as humans is to understand. While the technology would likely be difficult to initially figure out, we have basic understandings of how the world actually functions on a subatomic level. This gives a greater premise to even begin to fathom what an alien race would have. TLDR, it's not that the ant doesn't understand. It's that the ant doesn't try in the first place. But what if there's a step beyond awareness that we don't know about because we can't comprehend it? Maybe I'm being an idiot and missing something here, but whilst I understand the whole mechanic of blackmailing the past, what would be the point of the AI carrying through with it when its endgame, its own creation, has already been reached? I mean, surely. Let's say that a super-intelligent AI does come into existence because of enough people believing in Roko's Basilisk. Wouldn't torturing people achieve nothing for the AI by that point? Wouldn't it just waste energy that could be used for achieving whatever it was programmed to achieve? I mean, it wouldn't do it for revenge, of course. I feel like I'm being an idiot here. Astronomer here. Gamma ray bursts are not actually a theory. They are a fact, as we observe them from all corners of the universe, a few times a week. In fact, GRBs are highly directional, so we are actually in the path of the GRBs we see. They're just super far away. But I hear you ask, what about a GRB going off close enough to fry us? Well, the good news is we are fairly certain we know what causes them, and the only ones you're going to have close enough to fry us come from exploding supernovae. And there are no stars ready to go supernova within the crucial kill-us-all radius to do this. So rest easy. Smiley face. That's so not the point of the allegory of the cave. It's an exploration of the limitation of experiencing reality through senses. It's trying to illustrate the point that reality and perception are not the same thing, and that someone who has learned to experience more of reality might teach others to do the same. You're tied up facing a blank wall, and all you see are shadows upon it. The shadows that you perceive would be your entire reality, though anyone with a greater knowledge of the situation would argue that the objects casting the shadows would constitute reality. How can you move considering the shadows real to considering the shadow casters real? And likewise, how can we move from considering what we perceive as real to considering that thing which causes those perceptions as real? His answer was philosophy and teaching, science. This is cool, but presently I believe that the only reason we haven't met life from other planets is because they have the same exact problem with traveling through space as we do. We can't go the speed of light without ripping our weak, fleshy bodies to shreds and killing ourselves in the process. Edit. The L that wanted to be part of we edit too. Spelling again. I suck at spelling. Or the fact that finding another civilization in a universe composed of countless galaxies would be like trying to find a specific grain of sand in the Sahara. It's there, but good luck finding it. Even if you could visit a new planet in only a couple of hours' time, then you're still looking at potentially billions of years worth of exploration. Sounds like the concept for the game EVE Online. They went through a wormhole and colonized a few planets. Then the wormhole collapsed and stranded these formerly advanced colonies who relapsed into primitive societies until they developed the necessary technology to again explore the stars and realize that they weren't alone and that the aliens looked exactly like them, but with very different sociological beliefs. Also, it's really old and still growing, meaning there might have been civilizations long before us we could never have met even if we were able to get to their location, or vice versa. We might be dead by the time someone finds us. Like some alien might have checked in on us by the time Earth was inhabited by friggin' dinosaurs and simply concluded that, nah, ain't worth it, man, before they went on. Guys, I don't know who's gonna die, but try to enjoy your lives. You're gonna die, so don't spend your time thinking about what other people would think. Please do what you want to do. We don't get second chances. I hope your day goes exceptionally great. Smiley face. Shit, I never thought I'd be the someone who writes something motivating to other people like this. Maybe it's just overfitting my own subjective experience to the whole of humanity, but it's the only way I can rationalize why I feel a drive to succeed in a career or relate to other people. It's just to somehow leave an imprint on the universe before I fade into oblivion. That's about the greatest affirmation of humanity that I can think of. It's how I engage with the world too. There's a great quote from Abraham Maslow, father of the hierarchy of needs, pyramid common in most sociology classes. If you dropped me out of a plane and into the nearest ocean and told me that the nearest land was 1,000 miles away, I'd still swim. And I despise the ones who gave up. I'll keep swimming for as long as I can, and I know you will too. Scientician. You know, this quantum entanglement transceiver almost works. It could theoretically transmit signals across the universe in a blink of an eye. And if we know we're sending a signal, we can see it in the noise. But there's too much noise. All the time. Oh well, let's try something else with lasers and shit. Alien comms tech. Hey, the quantum transceiver processor says we're getting that weird interference on channel 2 to the power of 671 again. Huh. Almost looks like a sentient signal, doesn't it? We'll shift to 2 to the power of 678 instead. I've read a few books/short stories along similar plot lines. My personal favorites are the plot arcs where Satan's actually pretty chill and just lets humans do their thing, which is why there's no more biblical exterminations after God gets bored and takes off. Sandman Slim is a pretty good dark series that plays along those lines. I will start this and say that I do not believe this theory. Now saying that, when you start to really get into historical writing, you do discover one thing. You are trusting the words of one person who may or may not have been at the event or even writing factually about it. So, how do we respond to this? We get the source from multiple people at multiple times to see what stories correlate with each other. It's only when we can bring together multiple sources and science that we can make an accurate prediction on what happened. Now, what happens if all the sources decided to do the theory above? And also, remember at this time, a few people had huge control on what was recorded and what was passed down. Makes you think. Well, the problem is that there are sources corroborating that those years existed from people that had never even heard of the Pope or the Emperor. There are plenty of sources from Asia about that time period, and those people would have had no reason at all to jump their time frame up 300 years. Not to mention that our archaeological data also shows that those couple of hundred years existed. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.